Yes, it's happening. Was it their choice?
Everyone good? Mr. Esper, we got everyone?
Yes, Mr. Coates, record, please. At this time, I'd like to call to order the regular board meeting of the West Mifflin Area School District on Thursday, October 22nd, 2020. West Mifflin Area School District regular board meeting is held in the West Mifflin Area School District Middle School Auditorium, 81 Commonwealth Avenue, West Mifflin, PA, 15122. Meeting to begin at 7. Roll call. Baker. Here. Alexandra. Here. Bennett. Here. Blazevich. Here. Engler. Here. Astounding. Marshall.
Present.
Mattis. Here. And DeSanto. Here. There are no presentations this evening.
At this time, Mr. President, I'd like to add a couple of addendums to the agenda, with the board's permission.
I think for everyone in the public, We're gonna do something a little different. Mr. Sol's recommendation as our new superintendent is to make sure that we get the agenda out to you at least 24 hours in advance, to allow you to look at the agenda so that you can prepare yourself for public comment. As you know, we used to put it out at the meeting. And oftentimes that reason was because we had some minor changes sometimes that would come up that we needed to discuss for executive session perhaps or something else. So what he has come up with is we're going to do these addendums at the beginning of the meeting. These are the changes to the agenda that you picked up. We will announce what they are after we'll need a motion in a second, and then that way you'll have time to comment on any of these addendums under public comment. So we think this will be a better way to get you the agenda quicker and just to make the minor changes here under the addendum section.
Okay, Mr. Souls?
We're gonna have to ask for a motion to amend.
Okay, do I have a motion to amend?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Bennett,
Second.
second by Mr. Blazevich. Any questions or comments? Roll call. Aaron.
Yes.
Alexandrov.
Yes.
Bennett.
Yes.
Blazevich.
Yes.
Engler.
Yes.
Marshall.
Yes.
Mattis.
Yes.
And DeSenza. Yes.
All right, we have 3 addendums. Under 8, non-certified personnel. Under D, hiring. Number 2, it is recommended by the board, approve Lisa Novosel to be hired as the middle school secretary, classification 1. This position will be in accordance with the SEIU contract. Also under D, hiring, it is recommended the board approve Dylan Martin as a temporary full-time technology technician at the rate of $15 per hour plus benefits and pending receipt of all clearances. And our final addendum for this evening will be on number 10, athletic personnel, C, hiring. The board of directors hereby approves the following list of winter sport coaches as per the Federation's CGA.
Thank you, Mr. Souls. Hearing of the citizens, public comment. In order to speak at this time, the following must be a West Mifflin, Whitaker, or Duquesne resident. The matter must have been discussed with the proper education channels. Direct comments to the board president and/or superintendent. Remarks limited to 3 minutes per person. Teresa Seckley.
Teresa Seckley, 110 Main Entrance Drive. The first thing is when I was told about virtual learning, I was under the impression that, and I know this doesn't apply to all teachers because I have seen and heard that there were middle school teachers that were out in the city looking up history stuff, walking through and showing kids different parts of history. There are teachers that are actually teaching online, but there are a lot that are just posting stuff and telling kids to watch videos, answer questions. My daughter has a math teacher that literally tells her, and this isn't quoting on the Schoology page that the teacher had up, that waiting to do your assignment till class starts, bad idea, come to class with questions. If you're a math educator, you should be teaching these children how to do math, rather than having them teach themselves. Then what are we actually paying? And I'm not going against the teachers. I can tell you last year when we did remote, from my own personal experience, Mr. Ross taught us. I know there's middle school teachers that have done it because I have friends that have middle school teachers. I know that Mr. Googler and Mr. Fike are teaming going out downtown is absurd. And to also assign iReady every single week that they need to do. I mean, I get that it helps them, but in the same respect, some of these kids want to learn and they're so behind that I don't think spending time on iReady is actually necessary when they lost, 3 months last year. And we're already, how many months into this year, and these kids are behind. I thought when we went to remote learning that it was going to be the teachers actually teaching 5 days a week as if they were in the classroom and the kids watched the video and got an assignment like they would for homework. I don't think our system is working. I know for a lot of parents it's not. The second thing I wanted to bring up is we always get phone calls about crazy stuff in the district. There's an amazing event planned this weekend. I know I've seen it on social media. The two organizations in our district are trying to raise money for their programs. I would ask Mr. Souls, like, you know, if it would be possible to put that out on an all call to the parents. It's to help the band and the football team. They're coming together and they're having a fundraiser for the kids. These kids are struggling with fundraising, you know, to meet the needs. And obviously our budget doesn't allow us to help them anymore. So maybe even letting the parents know in the community to go grab some takeout food or something to support them, I think would be a great idea. Because honestly, it's the first fundraiser where I've seen two organizations work together. But that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Dan Beck? Can you put that on the roll call? You have that information? Okay. Good.
Dan Beck, 6815 Buchanan Avenue, West Mifflin. Besides this current problem, I've had other issues in the past with how coaches are handled. I understand the girls' basketball coach got let go, which is fine, it's your decision. I'm just wondering how the decisions are made. Are the players themselves discussed, brought in, got their opinions, heard their side of the stories? I sent a long email. I had one reply. The reply obviously didn't get my gist of it because they said my daughter, sorry she had a bad experience. My daughter loved her experience. She loved her teammates, her team. She made new friends. I'm just wondering how it goes to make the decision. They had a success. They made the playoffs for the first time in 5 years with mostly underclassmen. Just don't understand how decisions are made. And that's basically the gist of it.
I mean, we can't go into detail, obviously, because it's a personnel matter, but you want to talk about the process or?
Well, may I speak on that too? Apparently there was information let out right after the meeting, two people about those talked about. Where if it was a personnel matter, how did that information get out instantly?
It's a very good question. I mean, that's something that we've discussed as a board and administration at great length, and, you know, we're not pleased by that or happy with it. I mean, that was an error on our part, and we have to do better as a board to make sure that those things don't happen.
Normally our process, Mr. Beck, is we gather information as far as the statements that we receive. We conduct interview, coach, so forth, and then we draw our conclusion from that.
Do you get it from everybody involved or just decide one side?
I got it I received multiple statements for both sides, and I did share those all with the board as I got those.
All right, because I wasn't even aware of the whole thing until after the fact. And are the players themselves talked to, or is it all secondhand from parents?
If there's anyone who put something in writing, share it with the board. We took that.
Okay.
Thanks for that.
As you know, in my past life, I was a nurse. So in all reality, you're really not following CDC guidelines. There should be wipes up here so that each person can wipe off prior to putting their hands on the surface. I'm not saying it to be smart, I'm just saying it to be healthy. Couple questions that I have. On, I guess it's page 2, is under purchasing and contracts. C2. How many vehicles is this including, and why is there a need for these GPS devices? The next question I have, also on that page, is the 2 items for, from the tax, I guess they're refunds to Tech One. I'm sure it's not in our favor, I'm sure it's in their favor. And that's like about $2.7 million, which is kind of sad. On page 3, there is under what would be under reports, there's a line item that says complaints and civil action. I'd like to know what that's about. On the next page, 4, under bills, the insurance for the Hummer, they have for 2019, 2020, $550, and then it jumps to $2,754 for the 2021 school year. That's a huge jump, and I think we all deserve an explanation from Paul Fisher for that. The other question that a couple questions that I had are the fact that going through the budget and the line items, you have spousal buyout. And when you go through, and I understand if there's a husband and a wife that are employed and the insurance comes out of one of their paychecks, the other one, I guess, gets a spousal buyout, which if you go through all of the departments for all the employees, you get a total of about $358,000 on spousal buyouts. That's a lot of money. And one other thing is I'd like to know, under the budget, the COVID money of $791,557, what was this money used for? I understand it's supposed to supplement some of the taxes that we didn't receive, like the amusement tax, the mercantile tax, and stuff like that. I just wanted that, and if I could just make a quick comment, we bought all of those Dell laptops, and now we're gonna have to worry about buying cases for them. I think buying all those laptops, Dell could at least give us a cheaper case for these kids since they can't use backpacks. Thank you, sorry. And I'll leave these wipes up here for anybody else who wants to use them.
Mr. Esper, I'm not sure how many vehicles we have in our fleet, but
8 vehicles left, yes.
okay, you brought up the topic of insurance, Ms. Danesic. To my knowledge, I think that would be beneficial for our insurance premiums moving forward if our vehicles had GPS monitoring systems on them. You know, they could track the speed of the vehicles. It definitely helps in lowering our premiums.
Okay.
So I don't know if there's any other reasons, but that's one I'm aware of, so.
When you read GPS, some people think it's like a GPS to get directions here and there. It's not, it's for us to track where they're at. So it's called a GPS system, but it's not like a Garmin that you would buy so that they get directions from here to the middle school or from here to the high school. It's actually a device where we can track them, check speed and stuff like that.
I was trying to follow you on your path here. I didn't see the part on page 3 that you were referring to. I'm not positive.
Complaints and civil actions, Mr. President, those are legal actions that the district takes against homeowners through liens for people who have not paid their real estate taxes. And those 2 insurance premiums, the one that was $550, that was for last year. It was a partial year, only a couple of months. That's the premium to insure the 2 Hummers for the entire school year this year.
All right, Patty Goodler.
Good evening. Patty Googler, 2600 Sunset Drive, West Mifflin. I'm going to get right to the point. The lack of communication from this school district Since the departure of Dr. Hoover has caused anxiety and anger across this district for parents, students, and staff. I never thought I would miss hearing how many lunches were distributed, but at least you heard from somebody. Families across this district knew nothing about what to expect this school year until just days before the scheduled start date. And most of us had to find out on the news. Maybe you should let the parents know before you issue a press release. Mr. Solomon, you were the acting superintendent over the summer. Your lack of communicating with families during this time was unacceptable. Very few all calls or mailings. Were you planning on anything on how to educate these children? Even sadder, the lack of communication continues. It was stated that there would be a virtual town hall in order to answer questions and share information. What happened to that? What we ended up with was a video telling us what was going to happen instead. I would like to know if the problem all along is the lack of a plan to communicate. I have other questions. Why are we not taking student temperatures as they enter our buildings? Also, I see when I walk in, you all have plexiglass. Where's the plexiglass in our classrooms? Your offices might be plexiglass. Where's the classrooms? Why can you spend all the money for sports, turf, why do you spend thousands on turf, scoreboards, and so on for sports, but you can't spend the money for walk-through temperature checks? I would like to know also, what is your reason for half days under the current plan? Not only was the reason never communicated, but the fact that we were only going back half days was also never communicated. The fact that students were only going back half days was only found out by parents going to the Homeville Elementary site. Mr. Souls, you made an all-call on Friday the 9th to say we were going hybrid, but you forgot that maybe you should let the parents know that it was only a half day. So again, why half days? What gains do you think these students are really going to make during 25-minute periods in the upper grades? Where can I find the next step in the reopening plan? Do you have a next step? I understand that the things are always subject to change, but don't you think we have the right to know what the next step is? Also, my other question is, where can I find a detailed list of what the CARES Act money was spent on, as well as how much our district received? Thank you. Anyone answering?
I mean, yeah, I'd like to say that it's kind of insulting to insinuate that our administrative team at any juncture from the time Dr. Hoover left to present has no plan or has not been working on a plan. We all know as board members, we're not here on a daily basis, but they have filled us in at every moment. This thing has changed hourly, daily. It's not something that, you know, they could put something out to you guys at 8 a.m. and by noon, it would have to be something different. So, you know, everybody, not just West Mifflin School District, everybody has been scrambling to try to get the best possible education for their students. And to say that our administrators have no plan or we're doing nothing, it is insulting, to be honest.
Well, I'm sorry, that's how I feel. That's how many of my neighbors feel. And I just want to know the answers to it. I have a senior this year. Do you have a senior plan? Do you have any plans at all to try to give these kids a senior year at anything?
Absolutely. And we're moving forward. But again, we're confined to what we're
I-
dealing with.
And I understand that.
And again, we will continue moving on and evaluate the situation. And again, when we put the all-calls out, we did inform parents to look at their schools, their child's schools, for their schedules, because it was on there. Because if I would have just said a half day looks a little bit different for the high school than it does the elementary, as far as time frame goes. So we were directing you to the elementary sites as well.
Fine.
And I think Mr. Nissick and Ms. Goodwin both brought up CARES Act funds. So those monies have to be spent on COVID-related expenses. They can't be used in the general fund for our normal annual expenses. We have to document that and submit that to the report to the state for the CARES Act. I believe a large portion of our funds mainly were spent on technology, PPE, and sanitization products. I believe that that took up a bulk of it, and you have to understand that we did not get all of that. We have to appropriate through a calculation to the private schools in the area too, and they got a chunk of that as well. I believe that Mr. Solomon knows that pretty detailed. We went over that before, but I believe that greatly reduced our numbers. So you see one number, but after we allocate those funds to private schools, we end up with a lot less. And I believe that Mr. Esper can answer, but a bulk of that money went towards the technology, and the other portion of that went to PPE.
Mark Uhouse.
First, Mark Uhouse, 1016 Dana Drive, West Mifflin. Before I get into what I want to say, on that last topic, every school district is different. Every school district has different policies. But at the end of the day, where's our government? Our governor, nobody set out a plan and give a plan or help with a plan. They just put it all back on the school districts. So I just think everybody's doing the best they can under these circumstances. That's just my opinion. What I come up here tonight to talk to you about is basically our social media problem we have, I think, in our community, with our board, with certain folks in our community. Everybody has this today. My kids have this today. And when I have my kids, I tell them there's accountability when it comes to it. And me as an adult and parent, I try to teach my kids the right things when it comes to social media and the phone and how it should be used and properly used. But today, our society is different. And our society it's about attacking. It's about, having people with certain agendas and putting certain agendas out there in public. But realistically, we have folks that sit right up there amongst us that do let information out. And the people put on social media, I'm not talking about texting somebody, I'm talking about putting it on social media. And they don't give the full details of the situation. They just want to put it out for somebody on social media and post. And see, people today, when they look at this, and I look at this, with what goes on in our community when it comes to social media, it's as close as you can get that I call adult bullying. What I mean by that is they put stuff out there to try to push their own agendas, backdoor agendas. They put it out there, and we have certain board members who are afraid to make a certain decision because they're afraid of their name getting put out there on social media because they don't agree with the opinion of somebody else in our community. And it happens way too much here in West Mifflin. And when I talk about this, I talk about, people being responsible and people doing the right things. But people outside this district, when they look at us, the stuff that's posted on Facebook or our West Mifflin site, a social media site, I don't even go on. I hear about it. And people don't even live in this community, don't live in this county. They look at us as a dysfunctional school district, sometimes a dysfunctional community. And it's far from it. I can't understand why some of these people can't put on social media something good or something good happens, something positive happens. It's always negative. It's negative because somebody's trying to push an agenda. Example, somebody sent me a text, a snapshot of a text out there, and it's from one of the board members' spouses attacking our athletic director about sponsorships on the scoreboard. But meanwhile, that same school board member can just go right there and talk to Mr. Esper and get the true facts, not put out there as if this person's not doing their job.
10 seconds.
Okay. What I'm trying to say is to y'all, real quickly, when I try to say we're adults here, we're supposed to be leaders and we're supposed to lead by example for our children. And you wonder why our children, there's bullying goes on in schools and everything else because our adults are doing the same thing, but they're at a different level. We're supposed to be leaders and teaching our kids and role models, and we're far from it.
All right, I appreciate it, thank you. Sorry for your 3 minutes. We're held to 3 minutes.
One last thing I want to say is, I wanted to just say something to Mrs. Ahern here, because kind of come from the kind of same cloth in the way we're a little older. Not because you come, you do your job, you voice your opinion, you vote in the way you think is positive and what you believe in, and you don't put anything out there on social media. And I think you do a fabulous job, and everybody can learn from Mrs. Ayer.
Heather Jacob.
I'm Heather Jacob. I live at 1030 Briarley Lane in West Mifflin. On Tuesday, so I've addressed this with Mrs. Haney and with the bus company. So this is kind of my last resort. On Tuesday, my daughter, she's in 7th grade, was dropped off on the opposite side of the street, which is different than last year when she was dropped off last on our side of the street. We live on a blind curve. The news has been in our yard many times because cars go through the front yard, nobody pays attention. And so to have my 12-year-old cross Briarley Lane, especially on Tuesday in the rain and in the fog, it's dangerous. And I don't know what else to do other than ask the board for assistance, because Mrs. Haney called the bus company and they told her that they could do that, so they would, and they did not return my phone call. So here I am asking you guys for help.
We'll follow.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Feel free to send one of them an email just so they have your contact information or whatever.
I will do that. Thank you.
Okay, information items?
Yes, Mr. President. Information item A. Congratulations to high school science teacher, Mr. Justin Sickles, for being selected to participate in the American Chemical Society's Science Coaches Program. Information item 2. Congratulations to Jaden Benjamin, cosmetology, for being named Student of the Month for September at Steele Center for Career and Technical Education School. That completes the items, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Board Secretary, Business Managers Report.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would respectfully ask for a motion second approval on the following items under Board and Secretary Business Managers Report A. We'll do number 1 separately.
Yes, at this time, I am asking for a motion and a second to accept nominations for the Vice President. So we're just voting yes or no at this time.
Motion.
Motion by Mrs. Ahern. Second by Mr. Alexandrov. Any questions or comments? Roll call.
Ahern.
Yes.
Alexandrov.
Yes.
Bennett.
Yes.
Blazevich.
Yes.
Engler.
Yes.
Marshall.
Yes.
Mattis.
Yes.
DeSenza.
Yes. And at this point, I would just ask for a nomination for Vice President. Would any board member like to nominate somebody for that seat?
I nominate Mr. Blazevich.
Are there any other nominations?
So do we have to vote on this or no?
Okay, so now at this point, we'll ask for another roll call, and we're voting yes or no to Mr. Blazevich filling the Vice President role.
Ahern.
Yes.
Alexandrov.
Yes.
Bennett.
Yes.
Blazevich.
Yes.
Engler.
Yes.
Marshall.
Yes.
Mattis.
Yes.
DeSenza.
Yes. Congratulations, Matt. Now I have to leave, so.
All right, item 5A, 2, and 3 on page 1. These were not brought up at the work session, so the first is to approve, ratify the superintendent's recommendation for the reopening plan and hybrid learning. And number 2 is to approve a business subscription with Baldwin EMS at the cost of $500 running from January 1st, 2021 to December 31st.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Marshall, second by Mrs. Ahern. Any questions or comments?
I have a comment. I wish we would have voted on number 2 prior to that.
Anybody else? Roll call.
Ahern.
Yes.
Alexandrov.
Yes.
Bennett.
Yes.
Blazevich.
Yes.
Engler.
Yes.
Marshall. Mattis,
Yes.
DeSenza.
Yes.
5B Finance, numbers 1 through 5 on pages 1 and 2. Additions from last week were 2 real estate appeals, the authorization for the solicitor to settle those. That is a total decrease in $1.9 million as for 2019 and 2020. And that equates to, at the 2% discount level, $92,863.53. I imagine that they paid, and we'll be getting a bill for that to refund that money. And number 5 is just ratifying a transfer of $10,000 from the general fund to the athletic fund to pay for referees.
Mr. Masha, would you like to explain 3 and 4?
Yes, I can. As you know, Mr. Alfonso from our office, he did a memo, was sent over to Mr. Esper on further detail. But what happened was they did provide their tax base is on income approach, and that's what gets them to the higher value. The income approach is how much you get from rent. And unfortunately, a lot of businesses have closed. A lot of people decided not to renew their leasing options, and on the income approach, these properties came down. We do, in fact, to Ms. Stanesic's point, we do take these appraisals from these companies. We give them to our own appraiser. We work with the borough, and we also work with the county in reviewing those with our professional. If we feel we need to go further, then we did a full-blown appraisal. If not, we do what we call a desk review, where they give us an opinion of value if they think it's a good value. Unfortunately, in this case, those were appropriate values according to our experts.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Alexandro,
Second.
second by Mr. Marshall. Any questions or comments?
I have questions. Mr. Esper, in regards to the athletic account, I know it was separate, but is there a reconciliation that is done in your office, or is that all handled through the?
They reconciled, and I reconciled again every month.
Would I be able to look at that?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Can I ask a silly question? These 3 and 4, what properties are these?
That is that's what was the old service merchandise and the Ladbrokes up there, which to the left of what Hills was, those 2 buildings.
Isn't there a call center in there?
There was.
That's not there.
Yeah, I'm not sure. A lot of it's vacant.
I believe there may be some portion that's still being utilized, but it's very small in comparison to the square footage of the building.
So the $1.9 million, we owe that one?
No, that was the total reduction in assessed value. The monies that we most likely will write a check for is the $92,000, almost $93,000.
Which is what they've already paid to us.
That's I'm making the assumption that whether we pay it back or
Okay.
we get a reduced payment, that's what that is costing us.
I'm just trying to understand the math. Thank you.
All right, roll call.
Ahern,
Yes.
Alexandrov,
Yes.
Blake, Bennett,
Yes.
Blazevich,
Yes.
Engler,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Mattis,
Yes.
DeSenza.
Yes.
C, purchasing, items 1 and 2 on page 2. The addition was the GPS that Mrs. Nasik asked about from last week, and again, that is the covering vehicles.
All right, do I have a motion? Anybody?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Mattis,
Second.
second by Mrs. Ahern. Any questions or comments?
Have a comment. I'm not in agreement with the way that this is worded, for number one. I don't feel we need additional football coaches, but I felt that the coaches should have been paid in the spring. So I don't feel the wording of this is accurate.
I apologize.
That's not your fault. Don't worry about it.
I do want to make one point that's not in this specifically. This is a net increase of around $4,000 in expenditures because of the 2 positions that are eliminated. And then my assumption is that the 6th and 7th positions are going to be paid as all the other assistant positions are going to be paid. So it's an increase of around $4,000 just for this year. We should have made a note in here that is the dollar difference. Just so it's clear to everybody on the board that this is a net increase. And then number two, you say this is for 8 vehicles, so that's $3,600 then this year. What problem are we trying to solve with number two?
With the GPS?
Yeah.
It's for insurance purposes.
So is our insurance gonna go down by more than $2,400 a year?
I don't know that.
Because now we're gonna be paying, after this year, $3,600, next year, $2,400. And if our insurance is gonna go down by only $1,000, then we're still out $1,400. Doesn't make sense. I just wanna know if we're gonna save the amount of money that we're investing in them.
We probably won't, but I know the borough uses it, and I don't know if it was West Mifflin, but someone accused a borough worker of hitting their vehicle with a plow. And through GPS, that vehicle was never on that street during the time. Through investigation, the woman wrecked it, panicked. So I think this is a pretty good expenditure, even if it's not a net save to us.
Right.
Speaking on number one, the addition is really negated by the trainer and the gymnastics coach because we can budget for those two positions. And there's other positions in the CBA that actually don't have any coaches that we budget for every year.
Yeah, I understand that. And I looked at the West Mifflin trainer and gymnastics coach salaries. They're significantly less than an assistant football coach. So that's the 4,000 difference that I'm getting. I'm just saying, I just think we need to make sure that we have that on there. And then folks here understand what we're voting on. I can see number two. I can get that sort of use case where we're trying to be a little bit proactive and also maybe managing our vehicle fleet a little bit more efficiently. I just would hope that our insurance company recognizes that and is able to, adjust our rates appropriately given this technology is being implemented. I think it's sort of similar to whatever, drive safe or whatever, you can stick a device in your car. Your rate should go down. If it doesn't, I'm taking that device out. So I would expect that we should be able to prove in the future that our insurance rates are going down because of this technology. Sorry, that's all.
Does anybody else have any
I'd
questions?
just like to make one comment. The second part of C1, we really don't have any choice to pay coaches. That's covered by an act at the state government level associated with COVID. So that wasn't really something that we could say yes or no to.
That was why I didn't like the way it was worded. It
I
seemed like we
understand.
were getting that in return for taking it.
Yeah, I understand.
Did y'all have a comment on C1? I'm sorry, C2. Are the people that drive these vehicles that these GPSs are going on, are they union employees?
Yeah, yes, they are. They are okay.
Is there anything in the union contract that disallows this? I know I worked for a company that we had GPSs in the union when nothing could be turned off, so I just don't want to waste money.
So I can speak to that just a minute. You only have to have the union agreement and a policy if you're going to use them for disciplinary purposes. If we're using them for fuel efficiency, for safety purposes, for insurance purposes, we're not required to have the union approval because they're our vehicles. If we want to use the vehicle to say, oh, you took the truck outside of the district property, you weren't supposed to, we want to discipline that person, then we have to have a policy agreed to by the union to take any disciplinary action.
So are we using these for disciplinary?
I don't believe so because we don't have a policy at this time that it's approved by the SEA. If we would want to do that, we would have to provide a policy and an addendum to the SEIU contract.
I'm not trying to be difficult, I'm just trying to make sure we're getting a lot of
Mr. Espark, are the two Hummers included in this?
No.
Okay.
Or the two, I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question.
Yeah, he asked if the two Hummers were included.
The big green machine.
Yes, they are not.
They're not.
If you haven't noticed, they don't move much.
Right, that's my thought.
All right, anybody else have any questions? Roll call.
Ahern,
Yes.
Alexandra,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes.
Blazevich,
Yes.
Engler,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Mattis,
Yes.
and DeSenza.
Yes.
Moving on to minutes number 1 on page 2.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Mattis,
Second.
second by Mr. Blazevich. Questions, comments? Roll call.
Ahern,
Yes.
Alexandra,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Mattis,
Yes.
DeSenza.
Yes.
Item E, reports, numbers 1 through 5 on pages 2 and 3.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Alexandra,
Second.
second by Mr. Blazevich. Any questions?
Bennett,
Yes.
Blazevich,
Yes.
Engler,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Mattis,
Yes.
and DeSenza.
Yes.
Item F, refunds subtracted from expenditures, number 1 on page 3.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mrs. Ahern,
Second.
second by Mr. Marshall. Any questions or comments? Roll call.
Ahern,
Yes.
Alexandra,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes.
Blazevich,
Yes.
Engler,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Mattis,
Yes.
DeSenza.
Yes.
Item 5G, invoices number 1 through 5 on pages 3 and 4. There's a couple additions from last week. That's a fee to legal tax for filing fees and notary fees and postage. Our monthly retainer for our solicitor. We did receive a little additional money from the utility refund agency, and that was 50%, which is their fee. And then the 2 insurance policies, they actually did come as separate numbers. Again, one is for just a few months, and Mr. Fisher is going to give me a figure on just liability instead of having a total comprehensive, and to see what the difference is. If it's a savings, we'll probably move in that direction.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mrs. Ahern,
Second.
second by Mr. Mattis. Any questions or comments?
I have a question. So G and H, insurance, did you say that H or G was for a couple months?
Yeah, that was for a partial year.
Okay,
Yeah, that's why it's less.
I was gonna say, because there was a big jump.
Yeah, and initially I thought that was the total bill for the year. I was like, yeah, that's not too bad.
Right,
Then I looked at the second bill. So,
it's reasonable for things that don't know.
well, they're $80,000 vehicles.
I know, but I don't think we'd replace them if they ever were.
And that's why we're gonna look into dropping the
And they were
comprehensive.
donated or the popular dollar?
We pay the comprehensive.
Yeah, I just think that Fisher Insurance needs to understand, if you take a picture, give it to them, like, this is what they are, this is how they're used. If there's any way we could paint a better picture for that.
All right. Any other questions, comments? Roll call.
Ahern,
Yes.
Alexandra,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes.
Blazevich,
Yes.
Engler,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Mattis,
Yes.
and DeSenza.
Yes.
Item 5H, requisitions, others, numbers 1 through 2 on page 4, which include P cards.
Do I have a motion? Well, actually, the P cards were in our previous motion.
Thanks. Oops, sorry. That was in the previous one.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mrs. Engler,
Second.
second by Mr. Blazevich. Any questions or comments? Roll call.
Ahern,
Yes.
Alexandra,
Yes.
Bennett, Blazevich,
Yes.
Engler,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Mattis,
Yes.
and DeSenza.
Yes.
Item 5H,
We just did, we're there.
Six.
We're on.
6A.
okay, sorry.
Thank you for your report, District Operations.
Mr. President, under 6A, we recommend that the Gold Club at the middle school become part of the collective bargaining agreement with as a full supplemental. $1,300.
Would you like to explain what exactly?
Mr. Sullivan, because he was one of the ones who created that, put that program together.
Basically, there's two women at the middle school, two teachers that put this together to try to do some female empowerment and, you know, try to give them an opportunity for different activities to do each month. So far, it's been very successful. They've had a couple opportunities that there were over 100 females that attended. So, you know, they've been doing it for free and for volunteer. And at this point, looking to make it more of a permanent part of the supplemental contract.
Thank you. Have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mrs. Englert,
Second.
second by Mr. Bennett. Any questions or comments? Roll call.
Ahern,
Yes.
Alexandrov,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes.
Blazevich,
Yes.
Engler,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Mattis,
Yes.
DeSenza.
Yes.
Number 7. Kind of see where we have, going to draft recommendation to the board ratify and approve the list of building permits. We have boys basketball position and the wrestling program. That's for approval.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Blazevich,
Second.
second by Mr. Mattis. Any questions or comments?
Do we have procedures in place to take care of these spaces after they're used, as far as sanitation and things like that are concerned?
Yes, yes, we go through disinfectants over with this as well as people are well trained in that. She actually had Fagan come in, who supplies us with those chemicals to do that.
So we shouldn't be approving, or there shouldn't be any space utilized that isn't on this list that we haven't approved already for that purpose.
Correct.
Okay. I just want to make sure that, you know, as people are building out their schedules for fall, winter sports and next spring, that they get on this agenda, or they're not going to have the ability to utilize the facility. Just to make sure that we're in front of that.
And Mr. Blazevich, I can tell you this room was completely sprayed down before this meeting.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Is this gonna interrupt the painting of the gym?
Excuse me?
The workouts in the gym, is that gonna interrupt the construction of the building?
The painting?
Yes.
I believe the painting is back.
I just-
Any other questions or comments?
I guess I just have one more, sorry. Some of these are backdated, and I'm sure that we're being thoughtful and knowing that when people use a space, it gets cleaned and then we approve it. I'm hoping that maybe we can get ahead of this a little bit. So having November and October would make sense, and then December and November, so we're approving ahead of time. So maybe having some of these sponsors or coaches get their schedules put together sooner and get that over to us, I think would be helpful.
I believe that our athletic directors met with every coach and went through all the proper protocols and procedures that are in place currently. You know, so all our coaches are aware of exactly what the expectations are. So I don't believe, because usually this is a lot bigger of a section, we're not allowing outside organizations in. So, you know, there was a meeting, there is a plan in place, so all of our coaches and staff are aware, you know,
Okay.
how to move forward.
Yeah, and I'm assuming so. I'm assuming that everybody's aware. I'm just seeing some of these dates in October for the first time, and it's October 22nd. I'm hoping to see early November dates in here, just so that we know ahead of time who's going to be where, so that we can make sure that people are appropriately, you know, attending to all the maintenance that's required after we have an event or wrestling or whatever.
Yeah, and unfortunately, a lot of this, the majority of the time, is more ratification than approving. And I believe, Mrs. Wells, when a permit is submitted, your staff they're well aware in advance of what's happening here and who's going to be in the building.
Some of these days probably weren't even used because we were painting the
Yeah.
So we still have all the long time, so we do know ahead of time.
Okay, great.
Okay, that's helpful too. I appreciate that. I realize we're approving and ratifying at the same time. So, thank you for that clarification.
Yes.
Alexandrov,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes.
Blazevich,
Yes.
Engler,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Mattis,
Yes.
DeSenza.
Yes. Professional personnel?
Yes, under number 8A, 1 through 3. We have multiple staff members taking leave. And also under D, I'm sorry, or under E, we recommend approving the following graduate credit reimbursement for our staff members. And also, again, we want to commend Dr. Hellman for his, obtaining his doctorate degree. So we'd like to approve from A through B.
And just so we're aware, this includes the addendum earlier in the meeting as well, under D.
I would just like to make a comment about the hiring under the SEIU contract. Mr. Esper, that'll be under the old contract until we get the signed contract from the SEIU that we haven't had since June.
We've been operating under the agreement that was passed in June as far as wages and
Well, Mr. Esper, I mean, I've requested numerous times a copy of that signed contract, and you know that, so until we get that signed contract, we'll operate under the old one. It was passed by us, but I don't have a signed contract from the SEIU.
Okay.
Why don't we have the signed contract?
I honestly don't know, Mr. Blazevich. Mr. Esper and I have asked several times for the contract. They told us that the union rep was going on vacation, so I did the contract the day after the negotiations were finalized. We passed it at our meeting with all the appropriate changes. I was told the union voted on it and passed it. I just haven't gotten a signed copy. I know there was a transition between representatives, but that only happened in August. They did ask for an additional pay scale from Mr. Esper, which we provided in a matter of days, and I still don't have it. I have numerous emails and text messages requesting it.
Is there not an agreement? Is that what we're saying?
Well, until it's executed, we should be following the previous one.
Okay. And it falls in their court, right? That's what I'm getting.
Once we get the executed one, it's backdated from when the expiration of the old one was, but I mean, it's just getting frustrating. I know that they had a transition there. I understand we're under COVID, but we did everything on our end to expedite that process as quickly as possible. And I don't know what the issue is.
All right, do we have a motion yet? I'm sorry. Okay. Motion by Mr. Bennett,
Second.
second by Mr. Blazevich. Any questions or comments? Roll call?
Aaron,
Yes.
Alexandrov, Marshall. Mattis,
Yes.
DeSenza.
Yes.
Non-certified personnel, A through E. We have, again, under A, we have a list of staff members taking leaves. We have one resignation from our technology technician, retirement, the custodial or SEIU pool, hiring of another technology tech, John Collins. And under E, we have our list of bus drivers through Sun Coach as well as Hunter UPS Transportation.
All right. Do I have a motion?
I have a question.
We'll get there in 1 second, Mrs. Ayo, just so I don't lose my place. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Blazevich,
Second.
second by Mr. Mattis. Mrs. Ayo?
Do we have the clearances for all the drivers?
Yes, we have a renewal on 20.
Any other questions or comments?
And I think that the hiring of the technology technicians pending clearances as well.
Correct.
He actually has all his clearances already.
Do we have?
Yes, we have.
Okay, good.
Any other questions or comments? Roll call?
Aaron,
Yes.
Alexandrov,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes.
Blazevich,
Yes.
Engler.
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Mattis,
Yes.
and DeSenza.
Yes.
And, Mr. President, just so to follow up on that comment, he did submit those with his resume and that, so
Okay.
that's fine here.
Number 10, athletic personnel. We have B, we have 2 resignations. Middle school boys basketball, as well as the high school head indoor and outdoor track coach. We also have the recommendation of hiring Kevin Coker as the high school auditorium director. And also under C, we'd like to, as part of our addendum, to approve all the winter coaches for the 2021 school year. So, motion? Sorry. Motion by Mr. Mattis,
Second.
second by Mr. Blazevich. Any questions or comments? Roll call.
Anger,
Yes.
Missouri,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes.
Blazevich, Marshall,
Yes.
Mattis,
Yes.
DeSanto.
Yes.
Number 11, substitutes. We have nothing, but if I could put a plug in, Mr. President, we do need substitutes in all areas, so anyone out there who's looking to get involved in the school district, we're looking for applicants. Thank you. Number 12, conferences, we have nothing other conferences. Okay. And that concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Souls. Board President's correspondence. I just want to take a moment to commend our administrators, teachers, and staff. You know, these are very trying and troubling times, and there's a lot of uneasiness and uncertainty with every decision that's made. And, you know, I have full confidence in all those people and how we've conducted ourselves to this point. You know, there are a lot higher authorities than this board sitting here that don't have the right answers. So, and aren't providing the necessary guidance that we really would rely on in moments like these. And I think, again, our staff here has done an excellent job. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be what every parent or student necessarily wants, but it's what we're doing the best we can, again, in these troubling times. And I just think that, you know, our staff, teachers, administrators, everybody needs commended for stepping up and going above and beyond in a lot of instances in these circumstances. So just want to say thank you. Executive session discussion. We discussed personnel litigation.
We had a discussion before last week's workshop meeting and before tonight's evening about personal litigation.
Board reports, any committee reports?
We gave ours last week.
Yeah, I don't know with this new format if we were gonna, nobody has anything to announce or anything? Okay. Solicitor's report?
The only thing I have to report is last week I know we discussed policies and I said I didn't have a chance to review them. I want to apologize to Mr. Souls. He did send those to me. Somehow I missed them in my email. I have reviewed them, Mr. Mattis, and I would recommend them to the policy committee, as well as additional policies that I reviewed this week with Mr. Souls and Ms. Silvis regarding special education to bring those policies up to date that were issued in September. So I would like to make a recommendation.
Yeah, I'll do it next week, maybe, try to get something together.
Sure.
Any old business?
Yeah, I have something in our old business. We talked about the all sports booster last week. I think Gina, maybe last month, I think it was you that brought it up. We were trying to find out the financing and figure out who's in charge. I was approached by Mr. Ross, one of our teachers at the high school. He contacted me and said that if anyone was looking to be a part of the board or be involved volunteering, to contact him. He said to send him an email. His email is rost, ROST@WMASD.org. Just if anyone else wanted to get involved. I guess he's going to be taking over or taking lead, and he wanted to start organizing some things and get the ball rolling with that. So he just wanted me to try to relay that information to you guys and anyone on board.
And I'll be up this week, next week, Mr. Upper, thank you.
Mr. President, I'd like to just acknowledge Mike Mazzarese and his 40-plus years of coaching. He was was my coach. He's was good family friend, so.
I have to say something to Mr. Maz. I went to a neighboring school district, which over here I think is not a good thing. But I had a track scholarship at Duquesne, and I had a great track coach at that time, Chuck Stout. He was a good friend of Maz. And he even, when he would come over and give me tips, he would come over and encourage me. And that says a lot when somebody comes over to a competitor school district and takes an interest in a student and pushes them to do better as well. So I would like to say thank you to him as well.
I have one that's right in there. But equally as important, the band and football boosters are putting together a food truck rally at Century Free Mall parking lot on Sunday, 10:25, between 1 p.m. and 5 p.m. And there's also going to be raffles and other fundraiser type fun stuff going on. So take out a bunch of cash and stop by there to help support some of our larger organizations, help with fundraise for our students. So shameless plug for band and football.
Thank you. Any other old business?
I'd like to just publicly say, the the Borough Council for waiving fees related to having this fundraiser this weekend. I believe Mr. Mike Moses brought it up to the agenda, and it was voted 6-0 to waive the fees to help the athletes and artists raise as much money as they can through this upcoming food truck service. Thanks to council.
All right, any other old business? Any new business?
I got new business, Tony. Sorry, Mr. President. I just wanted to take the opportunity. This is the first time that we've all been together since I was appointed last month. I just wanted to thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to serve the rest of this term. It's been a crazy month, kind of baptism by fire. And if anybody thinks that they have all the answers, it's totally different when you're sitting here because you know the whole story here. And please don't pass judgment on any of us until you know the whole story. We're all up here doing the best we can for the children. I know I am, and I believe these other 8 folks up here are also. So I just want to thank the board for appointing me last month, and I hope I live up to your standards. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Welcome aboard. Any other new business? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Blazevich. Second by Mr. Mattis. Meeting adjourned.